My name is Teobaldo Montoya, but almost everyone calls me Teo. I'm 33 years old today, but the story I want to tell began when I was only 22. I was born in a small town in Cuba, a place bathed in sunshine, filled with music, and filled with welcoming people. It was a warm environment, but like many young people, I dreamed of going further. I wanted to see the world, experience new things, and seek out opportunities that simply didn't exist in the small town where I grew up. It was with this burning desire in my heart that at the age of 20, I made the decision that would change the course of my life, to leave Cuba and come to the United States. Believe me, it wasn't easy. Leaving my family, my friends, giving up my grandmother's food, only those who have been through it know the weight. But I was determined. I landed here with little more than the clothes on my back and a heart full of hope. The first few years were a real struggle. I worked jobs that no one else wanted. I struggled with the language barrier. I tried to understand a culture completely different from my own. There were days when I wondered if I had made the right choice. But I was stubborn, young and driven, and refusing to give up was all I had. At 22, things started to fall into place. I had a decent job at a fast food restaurant, my English was improving, and I had even made some friends. But even then, there was a restlessness inside me. Unanswered questions about what it really meant to live. I was searching for something more, although I didn't know exactly what. It was at that moment in my life, full of doubts and desires, that everything changed. And as strange as it may seem, it started with a toothache. It may seem ridiculous, I know, a little toothache, but it wasn't just any pain. It was the kind that starts out as a nuisance, and, before you know it, completely dominates your thoughts. My wisdom teeth were inflamed, and like any stubborn immigrant, I was reluctant to seek medical help. The fear of not being able to afford it, the insecurity in the face of such a different health system, all of this made me postpone the inevitable, until the pain became unbearable. I could no longer think, eat, sleep. That's when I finally decided it was time to go to the dentist. Little did I know that this seemingly trivial consultation would launch me on a profound journey, an experience that would lead me to look at life, death, and the meaning of existence from a new perspective. And that's exactly the story I want to share with you today, a story that speaks of pain, yes, and fear, but also of hope, transformation, and a purpose greater than I could ever imagine. It sounds unbelievable, I know, but I swear, every word is true. Every detail is etched in my memory, as if it all happened yesterday. It was a simple toothache that led to a near-death experience, something that shook everything I believed about life, the universe, and our role in it all. The day of the surgery arrived sooner than I expected. I woke up feeling a mix of relief and nervousness. Relief, because that infernal pain would finally end. Nervousness. Well, who doesn't get tense before surgery, right? I arrived early at Dr. Robles' office. My hands were shaking a little as I filled out the forms. The smell of the place, that mix of disinfectant and dental materials, seemed stronger that day, as if it wanted to remind me of where I was. The waiting room was almost empty. An elderly lady was leafing through an old magazine. A teenager with braces was biting his fingernail while waiting for an adjustment. The ticking of the clock on the wall filled the silence, as if each second was dragged out. "Teobaldo Montoya?" called the doctor's assistant with a gentle smile. I got up. My legs were shaking, but I continued down the hallway. The white walls of the office seemed even colder and more sterile to me. Every step toward the operating room made my heart race. I didn't know it, but I was about to cross the fine line between what is real and what goes beyond our understanding. As soon as I entered the room, I was greeted by Doctor. His smile was kind, almost reassuring, but there was something in his eyes. A subtle tension, difficult to explain, but which did not go unnoticed by me. "How are you feeling, Teo?" he asked, as I settled into my chair. I tried to respond with a smile, but my nerves were holding me back. It came out more as a grimace than anything else. "To be honest, a little nervous, Doctor." "It's completely normal," he said, adjusting the bright light over my face. "But don't worry, we'll take good care of you." Soon after, the anesthesiologist came in, Dr. Ramon Alvarez. He was younger than I had expected, and for a moment, that made me even more nervous. Did he know what he was doing? Did he have enough experience? But he spoke in a calm, professional voice and explained the entire procedure with confidence. "It's going to be okay, Theobald," he said, as he prepared the anesthesia. But there was a slight hesitation in his voice, an almost imperceptible detail, but it made my stomach turn. As the two of them got ready for the surgery, I tried to distract myself by looking around. The instruments gleamed in the light, looking more like war blades than medical tools, and in the background, Mozart was playing, the kind of music that should be relaxing, but here it sounded surreal, almost ironic. "Okay, Tew," Dr. Robles said, "now you're going to feel a little sting. After that, you're going to start getting sleepy. Don't resist, okay? Just relax." I felt the needle enter my arm and closed my eyes, trying to hold on to the melody floating in the background. Slowly, my body grew heavy. The sounds around me began to dissolve, as if I were diving underwater, sinking into a warm, silent ocean. Dr. Robles' voice, Dr. Ramon's voice, began to sound distant. I tried to open my eyes, but it was like my eyelids weighed a ton. And then, something changed. Suddenly, the feeling of heaviness disappeared completely. On the contrary, it was as if I was floating. I opened my eyes, or at least I thought I did, and I saw something that paralyzed me. Myself. My body was there, lying on the operating table, motionless, and I was above it, looking down on everything, floating. I saw Dr. Robles and Dr. Ramon running back and forth, their faces serious and distressed. Something was wrong. "Pressure dropping," Ramon shouted, his voice coming from far away, as if he were underwater. "Damn, he's going into cardiac arrest," Robles said. I wanted to scream to say that I was okay, that I was there, but I couldn't make a sound. Maybe he didn't even have a mouth anymore. It was like being present and at the same time completely absent. It was at that moment that I realized a light. In the corner of the room, a bright light, but not blinding. It was warm, enveloping, familiar somehow. It called to me, and I, without really understanding why, began to move toward it. As I got closer, a deep sense of peace enveloped me. All the fear, all the pain, all the doubt had just evaporated. It was like coming home after a long, long journey. The last thing I saw before I crossed completely into the light was my body on the table, the doctors still struggling to bring me back up. But that, strangely, didn't cause me to panic. I knew, with a certainty I couldn't explain, that everything was exactly as it should be. And then I dove in. The operating room disappeared. The sounds disappeared. The pain disappeared. There was only that light, strong but gentle. It was like being wrapped in a hug without arms, but full of presence and love. I found myself sliding through a tunnel made of that same light. The walls vibrated with colors I had never seen before, vivid colors that seemed to breathe, pulsate, dance. It was as if each hue had a consciousness, as if each color told a story without words. As I floated along this surreal path, I began to feel something, a presence. It wasn't something you could see or touch, but it was undeniable. I was not alone. There was someone, or something, with me there. An invisible but comforting companion, someone who guided me, who walked beside me on this impossible-to-explain journey. And that's when I began to understand. This was not an end. It was a beginning. Suddenly I heard a voice, but it wasn't with my ears. If I still had ears, it was inside me, as if reality itself were whispering. It was a gentle, welcoming voice. It seemed to vibrate in the fabric of the universe. "Welcome, Tybalt," she said. "Don't be afraid." I wanted to answer, ask where I was, what was happening, but I couldn't even organize my thoughts. Before any questions could arise, the voice continued. "You are on a very special journey, Theobald, a journey that few have the chance to take while they are still connected to the physical world. Journey." That word echoed within me with a different weight. Something was happening, something that went far beyond what my senses could capture. You have questions, I know, and they will all be answered in due time. As we moved through that tunnel of bright light, I began to see images, flashes, as if the walls of the tunnel were movie screens. They began to project moments from my life, my childhood in Cuba, my parents smiling, my first birthday, my first bicycle. I also saw the hard times, saying goodbye to my family when I came to the US, the silent nights in my tiny apartment in Miami, the tired eyes after endless shifts at work. And each memory was accompanied by a wave of emotion, joy, longing, regret, love. I felt it all, but it wasn't overwhelming. It was as if, for the first time, I could look at my life from the outside, with clarity, with understanding. "Your life is a tapestry, Tybalt," the voice said. "Every experience, every choice, every person you've met, they're all threads, and those threads intertwine, creating something unique, something beautiful, but your tapestry is not yet complete. We keep moving forward, and then, up ahead, the tunnel began to dissolve. The light, which was already intense, became almost unbearable because it was so pure. But it didn't hurt. It was as if I were immersed in love, a love without a name, without an owner, without conditions. When we emerged on the other side, I wasn't sure where we were. It wasn't a place exactly. It was an immense infinite space, made of living light. And there, right in front of me, was a being. Calling him an angel seems like an oversimplification, but it's the closest word I can find. It was huge, much bigger than anything I had ever seen. And yet, it was not intimidating. Its shape changed all the time, as if it was made of liquid light. His eyes, if I can call them that, seemed to contain entire galaxies. "Tyobold," he said, the same voice from the tunnel, "you are ready to see beyond the veil, to understand truths that go far beyond mortal existence." I had no mouth, no body, but I managed to respond. Somehow my will transformed into words. "Yes, I'm ready." The being smiled, not with a face, but with its very presence, and it extended something, a kind of hand made of pure light. "Then come," he said. "There is much to see, and much to learn." I took that luminous hand, and the moment I touched it, I felt a surge of energy pass through everything I was, a deep, purposeful vibration, and in the blink of an eye, everything changed again. The light has transformed, and suddenly we were in a place that I can't explain. It was like a garden, but not just any garden. It was the most extraordinary garden you could imagine. The sky there was an impossible blue, deeper, more vivid than any earthly sky. Golden clouds floated slowly, changing shape as if they were conscious. But what took my breath away the most were the flowers. Imagine all the flowers you've ever seen in your life. Now multiply that by 1,000 and add colors you never knew existed. Each flower pulsed with a soft light, each with a different rhythm, as if they were breathing. And the scent, oh, the scent. It was sweet and fresh at the same time, but in a way that you don't smell in your nose. You smell in your soul. It was as if the perfume was speaking to me. It was telling me, "You are safe, you are whole. This is the celestial garden," said the being of light beside me. His voice was music, not a song you hear, but one you feel, a perfect harmony with everything around us. And there, in that eternal moment, I began to understand. To understand that life, our life, is just a part of something much bigger, that everything we experience has meaning. That even pain is a necessary thread in the tapestry of our being. There, everything grew in perfect harmony with the universe. We walked along trails covered in something that looked like grass, but was different, softer than silk, shining softly beneath our feet, as if it emitted a light of its own. All around us, colossal trees rose toward the sky. Their trunks seemed to be made of thousands of tiny twinkling stars, and their leaves, oh, their leaves, they were colors I knew, and others I didn't even know could exist. Some changed tone as the wind blew, as if they were dancing with the light itself. As we walked, I realized we were not alone. There were other beings in the garden. Some looked like humans, but they radiated such a serene inner light that it was impossible not to feel at peace around them. Others were completely different. Beings made of pure light, creatures that seemed composed of wind and sound, like living symphonies floating in the air. Everyone was in harmony. Some were meditating, silent as ancient mountains. Others were talking to each other in voices so soft and melodious that they sounded like distant bells tolled by time. "Every soul here has found its way back home," my guide explained. "Some after many lifetimes, others after a single journey on Earth. All are here to grow, to learn, and one day to return to the whole." We walked to a lake with water so clear that for a moment I thought there was nothing there, just pure air. But when the light touched the surface, it danced in reflections that seemed alive. I sat down on the edge of the lake, or at least I felt like I was sitting down. I no longer knew if I had a body, but that position felt natural to me. "Theobald," said the being of light, now with a more serious tone, "you are here for a reason. There is something you need to see, something you must understand." I looked at him, curious and a little apprehensive. What could be so important that it would bring me to this incredible place? "Look at the water," he said. I leaned over. The surface of the lake began to change. It no longer reflected the sky. Now it was like a window to another time. At first, the images were blurry, like hazy memories, but soon they began to become clearer. I saw grand cities, skyscrapers so tall they disappeared into the clouds. Flying cars streaked across the sky. It all looked like something out of a futuristic movie. For a moment I thought, wow, is this what's coming? But the scene has changed. The same cities were now flooded. Huge waves destroyed buildings. People tried to survive in makeshift boats. I saw deserts where forests had once been. Hurricanes ripped up houses like dry leaves. It was devastating. "What is this?" I asked, horrified. "It is a possible future," the being replied, his voice now filled with sadness. "It is a reflection of what humanity is creating with its actions in the present. Global warming is not a theory, Theobald. It is a reality in motion, and these are the consequences." The images continued. Animals disappearing, forests devastated, glaciers melting like sugar in water, people struggling for clean water, food, shade. It was like watching the end of the world in slow motion. "But that can't be the only possible path, right?" I asked, feeling despair growing inside me. The being placed what felt like a hand of light on my shoulder. The touch was warm, firm, like a silent hug. "No, Theobald, that is just one of the possible futures. The future is not written. It is shaped every day by choices, by the small and large decisions of each human being." He made a gesture, and the images in the water changed again. Now I saw a different world. People planting trees, cleaning oceans, developing green technologies, scientists, community leaders, children, all joining forces. A planet recovering, healthier, more united. "This is another possible future," said the being. "A future where humanity recognizes itself as the guardian of the earth, where it acts with compassion, wisdom, and courage." I stood there looking at these two contrasting views, the world in collapse and the world in rebirth, and I felt for the first time the real weight of responsibility we all carry. That's when I understood. I understood why I was there, why I had been taken to that garden beyond life. "Do you understand now, Theobald?" asked the being of light. "Do you see why you were brought here?" I nodded slowly, feeling a strength well up inside me, a certainty I had never experienced before. "Yes," I said, "I understand. I need to go back. I need to tell what I saw and do my part, to change the course of history." The being of light smiled, and in that instant, it was as if the entire garden around us shone brighter, as if creation itself smiled along with it. "Yes, Theobald, that is your mission, but remember, you are not alone on this journey. Every human being has within them the power to make a difference. Every action, no matter how small it may seem, can generate waves that spread throughout the world, transforming realities." I looked out over the lake one last time. The two versions of the future kept alternating on the surface, a silent reminder of all that was at stake. I knew what lay ahead would not be easy, but it was necessary, and more importantly, it was possible. For the first time since starting that incredible journey, I felt a deep desire to return, to live, to start working for a better future immediately. But before I could say anything, the being of light spoke again. "There is one more thing you must see, Theobald, something few have the privilege of witnessing." As soon as he said this, the garden around us began to disappear, not like something fading away, but like a painting slowly dissolving into the light. We were filled with an even brighter glow. It was as if we were being taken to the heart of the universe itself. And this light, it didn't just illuminate, it pulsed. It was alive, and filled with something I can only describe as pure, absolute love. The intensity was so great that if I had still had physical eyes, I would have been blinded on the spot. But there, in that state, I saw everything, with a clarity I had never experienced before. And then, in the midst of that vastness, a presence appeared. It had no shape, no face, but it was so immense, so powerful, that my soul trembled. I knew without needing explanations. I was standing before the divine, the source, the consciousness that sustains all existence. "Theobald," the voice said, but not in words. It was a vibration that resonated directly in my essence, as if the universe itself were welcoming me. "You have come far on your journey." I tried to answer. I had so many questions, so many emotions, but I couldn't say anything. How do you talk to God? But then came a wave of love, a presence so welcoming, so understanding, that all my doubts, fears, and insecurities dissolved, like mist in the sun. "Your thoughts are clear to me, child," the voice continued. "You wonder why you were brought here. Why you?" Yes, that was exactly it. How could I, Teobaldo Montoya, a simple Cuban immigrant with a toothache, deserve something so great? Every soul is precious, Theobald. Every life is a unique expression of the universe exploring itself, knowing itself in infinite ways. You are not here because you are more special. You are here because Allah special. Those words passed through my consciousness like a wave of light. It wasn't about being chosen. It was about understanding that we are all already part of the divinity, that the extraordinary is in the ordinary, and the sacred lives in every gesture, every life, every moment. You saw what can happen if humanity continues on the path of disconnection and neglect. But you also saw the possibility of healing, of regeneration. Free will is the greatest gift and the greatest challenge I have given humanity. Every choice you make shapes not only the future of your planet, but the very fabric of the universe. At that moment, new images began to appear within my mind, not only of Earth, but of the entire cosmos. I saw galaxies being born and dying, alien civilizations flourishing and transcendently departing, worlds intertwining in an eternal dance of creation and destruction, a cosmic symphony in perpetual motion. Everything is interconnected, said the voice. The flutter of a butterfly's wings can change the winds of the world. Likewise, the actions of a single human being can resonate throughout eternity. I was ecstatic and overwhelmed. How could such small beings carry so much power? Do not be afraid, Tybalt, the voice said, calming my spirit like a breeze after a storm. You are not alone, none of you are. Every living thing, every star, every atom, all are part of the same body. All are expressions of the divine, including you. And there, surrounded by that presence, I understood. The strength I was looking for, the wisdom, the courage, it was all already inside me, inside all of us. Now you must return, said the divine. Return with an open heart, and with the mission of reminding others of what they already know but have forgotten. I felt a wave of peace wash over me, an understanding so deep that words could not capture it. I was part of the whole, and the whole was part of me. So, without pain, without fear, I started to go back, and that was how the most extraordinary journey of my life ended, and the most important mission of my existence began. Take with you everything you learned here, but don't just keep it to yourself. Share it, not only in words, but in actions. Live in a way that awakens in others the desire to see their own light, to realize that they are part of this great web that connects all forms of life. I wanted to stay. I wanted to understand more, to feel more of this extraordinary connection. But deep down I knew my time there was running out. There was something waiting for me, a life to be lived with renewed purpose. Remember, Theobald, those were the last words I heard before the light began to fade. Love is the most powerful force in the universe. It is what holds everything together. Never forget that. As those words echoed within me, I felt as if I were being pulled back to reality, back to my body, back to life. But something had changed. I was no longer the same Tybalt who had walked into that operating room. Something in me had expanded, transformed. I had been touched by something greater. And now, it was time to go back and make it count. Returning to my body was like diving into ice-cold water after being enveloped in the most welcoming warmth in the universe. A shock, uncomfortable, painful. The first thing I felt was pain, a sharp pain that seemed to vibrate inside every cell of my body. My eyes flew open, blinded by the lights of the operating room. Then came the sounds, the rhythmic beeping of machines, hurried voices, running footsteps. "He's coming back!" someone shouted. It was Dr. Robley's voice, though it sounded distant, as if he were on the other side of a dream. I tried to speak, but my throat was dry and scratchy. All I could manage was a hoarse groan. I felt hands on me, checking my vitals, adjusting tubes and wires. "Theobald, can you hear me?" Dr. Robley's voice sounded closer now, and his face began to take shape before my eyes. He was visibly exhausted, beads of sweat running down his forehead, but his eyes shone with relief. I tried to respond, but I still couldn't find the words. My mind was a confused whirlwind, trying to understand everything that had happened. Had it been real, or just a dream caused by the anesthesia? "You gave us quite a scare," he said, placing his hand on my shoulder. "You had a reaction to the anesthesia. Your heart stopped. For a moment there, we thought we had lost you." Lost? No, I wasn't lost. In fact, I'd never felt so found in my entire life. I wanted to tell him everything, what I had seen, what I had felt, but the words wouldn't come. Everything seemed blurry. The next few hours passed in a blur. Tests, questions, explanations. They said I had been clinically dead for almost 3 minutes. 3 minutes here, but on the other side it felt like an eternity. Only later in the recovery room did I have a moment of silence, and then it all came back. The tunnel of light, the heavenly garden, visions of the future, the encounter with the divine. Each memory brought a flood of emotions: wonder, love, an overwhelming sense of responsibility. A nurse came in to check my signs. She looked at me tenderly and asked, "How are you feeling, Mr. Montoya?" My voice came out hoarse, hesitant but firm. Different, completely different. She smiled, probably thinking I was referring to the effects of the surgery. But I knew. It wasn't just my body that had changed. It was my entire soul. That night, lying in the hospital bed, I couldn't sleep. Whenever I closed my eyes, flashes of that experience would come flooding back to me. The intense light, the impossible colors of the garden, the disturbing and at the same time hopeful visions about the future of humanity. But along with these memories came a calling, a purpose. I couldn't go back to life as if nothing had happened. It had all been more than real. It had been an invitation to transform. But how? How could I, Teobaldo Montoya, a simple immigrant who works in a snack bar, change the world? The answer came softly, like a whisper in the soul. It was not an external voice, but a living memory, something I already knew, and that now revealed itself with absolute clarity. Every action, no matter how small, has the power to create waves of transformation. It was there in that hospital bed, still surrounded by the smell of disinfectant and the distant sound of heart monitors, that I made the decision that would change the course of my existence. From that moment on, I would dedicate each new day to making a difference. I would share what I learned, I would walk with purpose, and I would work, with everything I had, for a fairer and more sustainable future for our planet. My physical recovery surprised even the doctors. They could hardly believe how quickly my body was recovering after everything I had been through. But what they didn't know, what no one there could see, was that I was being moved by a force far beyond the flesh, a spiritual conviction that burned within me like a new flame. As soon as I was discharged, I started planning. I knew that if I wanted to inspire change, it had to start with me. I changed my lifestyle. I immersed myself in research on sustainability, waste reduction, and conscious consumption. I adopted a plant-based diet, not just for health reasons, but because now with painful clarity, the impact our choices have on the earth. But I also knew individual changes are the first step, not the final destination. I needed to go further, touch more lives, take this message outside my bubble. I started slowly, like someone who throws seeds into the wind. Conversations at lunch, exchanges of ideas with friends, small gestures at work. To my surprise, many were open, curious, touched by my sudden passion, and perhaps by the different sparkle that my eyes had carried since that day. One night during my shift at the diner, I overheard 2 customers talking about a city council meeting. They were discussing a proposal to build a new landfill right next to a conservation area. It made me uneasy. An urgency took hold of me. I knew I had to be there. After work, I went straight to the meeting room. The room was full. Most of the people were there to protest the project. I sat in the back, listening intently to each argument. When they opened the floor for public comment, something inside me, the same force that had guided me back to life, made me raise my hand. I walked to the microphone on shaky legs. I looked around the room full of unfamiliar faces, and for a moment, I doubted myself. Who am I to speak here? What can I say that really matters? But then, as if in a cherished memory, I felt that deep peace return, the same one that had enveloped me in the other dimension. I took a deep breath, and I spoke. Good evening. My name is Teobaldo Montoya. I am an ordinary worker like many of you. I recently went through an experience that changed everything for me, and today I see the world with different eyes. I talked about my near-death experience, without mysticism, without exaggeration. I talked about what it taught me, about interconnection, about responsibility, about how our choices shape the world we will leave for future generations. This landfill may seem like a simple solution now, I concluded, but we need to think bigger. We need to invest in environmental education, in waste reduction, in solutions that respect life, not just our own, but that of all species. Each of us has power. Every small choice matters. There was a brief silence after my words. Then something unexpected. Applause. Lots of applause. People approached me after the meeting, curious, touched, wanting to know more, asking how they could get involved. That night, As I walked home under a sky dotted with stars, I felt an indescribable gratitude. Gratitude for a second chance, for being alive, for being able to do something of real value. And while I knew the path ahead would be uncertain, filled with challenges, I also knew I would not be alone, because now I could see clearly. Every star in that sky was a silent reminder that everything is connected, and that all of us, even the most humble among us, have a sacred role in this journey. So I took my first step toward a new life, a life dedicated to making a difference, one gesture at a time. The months that followed were a real roller coaster. My life was turned upside down, and at times, yes, it was difficult. The Theobald of before seemed like a stranger to me. As the days passed, I realized the growing distance between who I was and who I was becoming. Increasingly involved with environmental causes, I participated in beach cleanup campaigns, planted trees in urban areas, and visited schools to talk to children about the importance of protecting the planet. And with each small action, I felt that I was finally honoring the mission that had been entrusted to me. But not everything was easy. Some people close to me, friends, even family, began to look at me differently. Many didn't understand this sudden passion for activism. Some laughed behind my back, others spoke directly to me. "Don't you think you're overreacting?" my friend Miguel asked as I handed out pamphlets about conscious consumption on the street. "It's okay to care about the environment, but you're all you can talk about now." His words hurt me, not because he was being cruel, but because it forced me to look at myself. Was I going too far? Was I pushing people away instead of inspiring them? It was around this time that I met Sophia. She was a marine biologist involved in a coral conservation project. I met her during a lecture at the local library about the effects of climate change on the oceans. I was fascinated, not just by the content but by the way she spoke, with a passion that seemed to ignite the entire room. I waited until the end of the lecture and gathered up the courage to approach her. I shared a little of my story, thinking she would think I was strange, but no. She listened with sincere attention and, with her eyes shining, told me something that changed everything. "Teobaldo, what you experienced is profound. It is transformative. But remember, real change happens little by little. You can't force it. Sometimes the most important thing is to just plant the seed and let it grow in its own time." Those words were like a mirror. I realized that, in my thirst to change the world, I sometimes ended up being impatient, sometimes even arrogant without realizing it. That's when I started to change my approach. I started to listen more, to try to understand people's fears, doubts, and limits. I didn't talk anymore to they, but with them. And I also understood that it wasn't enough to take care of the planet. I needed to take care of myself too. I started meditating, walking more in silence, reconnecting with that sense of peace that once enveloped me on the threshold of life and death. Over time, subtle changes began to happen around me. Co-workers began bringing their own reusable bottles. Neighbors came together to start a small community garden. Children who attended my lectures sent me drawings and letters filled with hope. Small gestures, but when added together, they were a silent revolution. One afternoon, after a community beach cleanup, I walked with Sophia along the sand. The sun was setting on the horizon, tinting the sky orange and gold. She looked out to sea and said, "You know, sometimes I wonder, is it enough? Do we still have time to change things?" We were silent for a moment, listening to the waves. But then I remember a phrase I read once: "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world." In fact, it is the only thing that has ever changed the world. And when I see people like you, who have been through something so profound and decided to dedicate their lives to it, I feel hope. Her words touched me deeply. I looked at the sea, at that point where the sky kisses the water, and felt once again that immense connection with everything, with the universe, with life, with that which goes beyond what we can see or understand. At that moment, I reaffirmed my choice. I knew there would be difficult days, doubts, discouragement, but I also knew that I was on the right path, and that I was not alone. We were all, together, sowing a new future, one gesture at a time. Today it has been 11 years since that day my heart stopped in the operating room. 11 years since I glimpsed what lies beyond this life, and received a mission that completely changed the course of my existence. When I look back, I see how much I have changed, how much I have grown. I am no longer that confused young immigrant, trying to find his place in the world. Today, I am a man with a purpose, with a clear vision of what I came here to do. And even though there is still a lot to be done, I continue, one step at a time, one seed at a time, because now I know true change begins within us and spreads like light where we least expect it. My work with environmental organizations has taken me to places I never imagined I would see. I have attended international conferences on climate change and helped create environmental education programs in underprivileged communities. But what really touches my heart are not the big achievements or recognition. They are the small everyday victories, the sparkle in a child's eyes when they understand, for the first time, the importance of recycling, the pride of a community group when they see the park they helped clean and revitalize, or even the silent gratitude of a sea turtle rescued from an abandoned fishing net. Of course, not everything is perfect. The challenges are enormous, and climate change continues to threaten our planet with increasing force. Sometimes I feel the weight of the world on my shoulders, and I wonder if we are really moving fast enough. But then I look back at the visions I have had, the celestial garden, the beauty and harmony I have experienced, and the words of that divine being resonate within me. Love is the most powerful force in the universe. It is what connects everything and everyone. This memory renews me. It gives me the strength to move forward, because today I know that every act of love, whether it's caring for the environment, helping a neighbor, or simply being kind to a stranger, is an expression of this universal force. Every small positive action creates ripples that spread in ways we can't even imagine. I recently had the opportunity to return to Cuba for the first time since I emigrated. It was a surreal and moving experience. I saw my hometown again, and I met up with old friends and family. But what touched me most was realizing how ideas of sustainability and environmental awareness were growing even there, in a place that, when I was young, seemed so far removed from such discussions. During a lecture at a local university, I told about my work and experience. Afterwards, a group of young people approached me, their eyes shining with the same passion and determination that I felt at that time. They shared their projects and dreams for a more sustainable future. At that moment, a wave of hope came over me so strong that it almost made me lose my balance. That's when I realized, my mission is not to save the world alone. That would be impossible and even arrogant. My mission is to inspire others to join this cause, to recognize their own connection to the universe and their responsibility to the planet that sustains us. Now, as I write, I look out the window and see the sunset painting the sky with shades of orange and pink. It's a reminder of the beauty that exists in our world, of the precious gift that life on Earth is. It's also a reminder of what we are fighting to protect. I don't know what the future holds for us. I don't know if we'll be able to repair all the damage we've already caused, but I know that each of us has the power to make a difference. Every choice, every gesture shapes tomorrow, not just for our species, but for all life on Earth. My near-death experience showed me that we are all part of something bigger, all connected by a cosmic fabric that binds all of existence together. And with that connection comes a responsibility, not just to each other, but to all life, to the planet that sustains us. Sometimes when I'm alone, I close my eyes and try to reconnect with that deep peace I felt beyond life, that unconditional love. It's never as strong as it was that day, but I always hear an echo of that experience. It's as if a part of me is still in that celestial garden, watching the eternal dance of creation. These memories remind me that our time here is temporary, but extremely meaningful. Every moment is a chance to make a difference, to spread love, to care for our cosmic home. Many people ask me if I'm afraid of death today. The truth is, I don't. Not because I see it as the end, but because I know it isn't, but because I understand that life and death are part of the same cycle, the same cosmic dance. What I fear most is not death, but not living fully, not fulfilling the purpose for which I was sent back. There are days when I wonder why I was chosen to go through this experience. Why was I, Teobaldo Montoya, a simple Cuban immigrant, given this glimpse of the afterlife? But then I remember the words of that divine being: every soul is precious, every life is a unique expression of the universe. I understand now that I was not chosen because I was better or special than others. I was chosen simply because we are all chosen, each in our own way, to play a unique role in the immense tapestry of existence. My near-death experience was just an awakening to this truth. As I write these final words, I feel a deep mixture of gratitude for the second chance I have been given, for the opportunity to live with a clear purpose, and for the determination to keep going, no matter how difficult the path. I know the journey ahead of me is long. There is much work to be done, many minds and hearts to be touched, but I am not alone in this mission. Every person who decides to make conscious choices, every child who learns to love and respect nature, every scientist who seeks sustainable solutions, we are all part of this movement for change. And for you, who are reading this now, I want to leave a message. You also have a fundamental role to play. It doesn't matter who you are, where you live, or what you do. Every act of kindness, every conscious choice, every effort to protect our planet, all of it matters. Always remember, we are all part of something bigger. We are connected to each other, to the earth, to the cosmos itself. And with that connection comes a sacred responsibility. The responsibility to love, to care, and to protect. My experience gave me a glimpse of the divine, but the truth is that we don't have to die to feel this connection. It's here now in every beat of our heart, in every breath, in every moment of awareness. So as we continue our journey through life, may we never forget this fundamental truth. May we live each day with purpose, with love, and with respect for all life, because in the end, that's what really matters. And who knows, perhaps together we can create here on earth a reflection of that celestial garden I was honored to see. A world of harmony, beauty, and unconditional love. A world where every living being is valued, where nature is respected, and where we deeply understand our connection to the whole. This is the dream I live for. This is the future I work towards every day, and I invite you to join me on this journey, because together I truly believe we can make a difference. Together we can build a future that honors the sacredness of life in all its forms. I am Teobaldo Montoya, and this is my story. A story of death and rebirth, of awakening and purpose. But most of all, it is a story of hope. Hope for our planet, for our species, for the future. May we all find our way back to the garden. May we awaken to the truth of who we really are, and may we, each in our own way, help weave a brighter future for us all.